listening to the Full Circle Weekly News. These articles are compiled by Eric the Unready, and I'm your host, Moss Bliss. This is episode 367, covering week 20, May 13th to 19th, 2024. Linus Torvalds presented Linux kernel 6.9. Among the most notable changes, the DM-VDO module for deduplication and compression of block devices, direct file access mode in Fuse, support for creating PID FDS for individual threads, a BPF token mechanism, support for Rust on ARM64 systems, deprecation of the ext2 file system driver, removal of the old NTFS driver, support for the Intel FRED mechanism. Viola Workstation K10.3 is an updated distribution which offers a KDE desktop environment and is designed for a wide range of users in the office and at home. The distribution can also be part of the Active Directory infrastructure. The build is prepared for x86-64 architecture and built on the Alt-10 platform. There is a live image available. Only individuals, including individual entrepreneurs, can freely use the downloaded version. Commercial and government organizations can download and test the distribution, but for work in the corporate infrastructure, legal entities must purchase licenses or enter into written licensing agreements. The maintainer building KeePassXC password manager packages for Debian has switched to delivering the most stripped-down version of the program, which retains only the basic functionality necessary for securely storing passwords on the local system. Advanced features including networking capability, IPC management code, web browser integration components, auto password functionality, and code to support YubiKeys have been removed from the standard KeePassXC package to eliminate unnecessary functionality that increases attack surface and has the potential to negatively impact security and privacy. RescueZilla 2.5 distribution is available, designed for backup, system recovery after failures, and diagnosis of various hardware problems. The distribution is built on Ubuntu and continues the development of the Redo Backup and Rescue project, where development was discontinued in 2012. Live builds for 64-bit x86 systems and a deb package for installation on Ubuntu are offered for download. RescueZilla supports backup and recovery of accidentally deleted files on Linux, Mac OS, and Windows partitions, automatically searches for and connects network partitions that can be used to host backups. The graphical interface is based on the LXDE shell. The format of the created backups is fully compatible with the CloneZilla distribution. Recovery is supported with CloneZilla, Redo Rescue, FoxClone, and FS Archiver images, as well as virtual machine images in VirtualBox VDI, VMware VMDK, QEMU QCOW2, Hyper-V VHDX, and .dd/.img formats. Andy Ritger, who leads NVIDIA's Unix-like operating system driver development, answered questions raised regarding the transition of NVIDIA's proprietary drivers to use Open Linux kernel modules by default on systems with GPU-based microarchitectures starting with Turing. When asked about achieving parity in the functionality of open and proprietary drivers, he replied that in driver release 560, open-source kernel modules will roughly match the functionality of proprietary modules. Among the limitations, one can use the RTD3 dynamic power management mechanism with open kernel modules on older generations of GPUs preceding Ampere. The capabilities of open and proprietary modules related to GPU initialization and power management will be quite similar in the NVIDIA 560 drivers, and over time work will continue to achieve full parity in this direction. Release 560 will also address some long-standing issues in open modules, such as those related to the use of variable refresh rate on laptops. NVIDIA has no plans to push for open modules to be included in the main Linux kernel. For production applications, the company recommends using proprietary drivers and separately supplied open kernel modules. The company has previously made attempts to provide Nouveau and NVK developers with documentation for NVIDIA chips and hardware interfaces and provided individual patches, but the assistance provided is modest enough to not be called support. It is not yet possible to support proprietary NVIDIA components running in user space to gain support in the Nouveau driver, and these components cannot work when using the Nouveau kernel module. It is noted with Nouveau that it is also not yet possible to use features related to configuration and monitoring. At the same time, a previous license change for NVAPI API definitions allowed the Wine and Proton projects to prepare their own implementations of some NVAPI elements used in games. NVIDIA has not heard of plans to open up components of the driver stack for GPUs running in user space. Manjaro Linux 24.0 is out. The distribution is notable for its simplified and user-friendly installation process, support for automatic hardware detection, and installation of the drivers necessary for its operation. Manjaro comes in the form of live builds with KDE GNOME and XFCE graphical environments built for the x86-64 architecture and various boards based on ARM processors. Builds with Budgie, Cinnamon, Deepin, LXQT, and i3 are further developed by the community. Manjaro uses its own Boxit toolkit, similar design to Git. The repository is maintained on a rolling basis, but new versions undergo an additional stage of stabilization. In addition to its own repository, there is support for using the AUR. ALDOS 1.4.18 is presented, offering a classic layout user environment designed for minimal resource consumption and capable of running on low-power systems. The distribution is based on Fedora Linux technologies but comes without the systemd system manager, instead using Upstart to initialize and start services. EUDEV is used for devices and eLogInD is used to manage sessions. The current branch of ALDOS will be supported until the end of September 2029. ALDOS includes Linux kernel 4.19, which is chosen as the least bloated and undemanding of resources. Linux kernel 5.4 is available for installation on newer hardware. SE Linux is disabled by default. The graphical environment is based on XFCE 4.18, but you can install Mate, KDE Plasma, LXQT, or Lumina desktop from the repositories. A full set of multimedia codecs is available out of the box, and the repository contains more than 35,000 packages. Localizations are offered for Spanish, Catalan, and English, and support for other languages can be installed from the repository. Endless OS 6.0 is out, aimed at creating an easy-to-use system in which you can quickly select applications to suit your taste. Applications are distributed as self-contained packages in Flatpak format. The distribution does not use traditional package managers, instead offering a minimal, atomically updated read-only base system using the OS Tree toolkit. Fedora developers are trying to repeat these concepts in the Silverblue project, as are the creators of Vanilla OS, Carbon OS, Tau OS, and Pop OS. The Endless OS installer and update system is used by the GNOME OS project. The desktop environment in Endless OS is based on a significantly redesigned fork of GNOME. At the same time, Endless developers actively participate in the development of upstream projects. In the GTK Plus 3.22 release, about 9.8% of all changes were prepared by Endless developers, and Endless Mobile is on the oversight board of the GNOME Foundation. Oracle has published the release of Oracle Linux 9.4 based on Red Hat Enterprise Linux 9.4 and fully binary compatible with it. Installation ISO images prepared for x86-64 and ARM64, AR64 architectures are offered for download. Oracle Linux 9 has unlimited and free access to the Yum repository with binary package updates for errata and security issues. Separately supported repositories with sets of application stream and code-ready builder packages have also been prepared for download. In addition to the 5.14 based kernel package from RHEL, Oracle Linux offers its own kernel, Unbreakable Enterprise Kernel 7 Update 2, based on the Linux kernel 5.15 and optimized for working with industrial software and Oracle hardware. The kernel sources, including breakdown into individual patches, are available in the public Oracle Git repository. The Unbreakable Enterprise kernel is installed by default, and it provides a number of advanced features such as dtrace integration and improved Btrfs support. The developers of GNOME OS announced the transition to the use of systemd sysupdate component for organizing atomic update systems. The purpose of the change is to adapt the nightly builds of GNOME OS to conduct daily quality control of GNOME development. One of the advantages of moving GNOME OS from OS Tree to systemd-sysupdate is the ability to use a verified boot process in which a chain of trust extends from the bootloader to the system components of the distribution. In addition, it will allow for more complete integration with systemd and enable an architecture that manipulates pre-built system images as indivisible components. Researchers from ESET have published a 43-page report analyzing the eBerry rootkit and related activity. It is claimed that eBerry has been in use since 2009 and has since been installed on more than 400,000 servers running Linux and several hundred systems based on FreeBSD, OpenBSD, and Solaris. Around 110,000 servers remain affected by eBerry at the end of 2023. The study is of particular interest given that eBerry was involved in the attack on kernel.org, which reveals some new details about the compromise of the Linux kernel development infrastructure identified in 2011. eBerry was also detected on domain registrar servers, crypto exchanges, Tor exit nodes, and several unnamed hosting providers. The Yama Group has announced its decision to open source the Winamp media player and move the project to a collaborative development model in which anyone can take part in development. Publication of the code is scheduled for September 24, 2024. Unofficially, the transition to an open development model was caused by a reorganization due to financial problems. The company was forced last year to sell the Shoutcast project and fire the core team of developers who maintained Winamp in favor of developing the streaming web service of the same name and mobile applications. The Winamp project was created by Justin Frankel and Dmitry Boldyrev in 1997 and is one of the longest-living multimedia players that continues to actively develop. Winamp is initially designed for use on the Windows platform and has about 83 million users. In April, mobile versions of Winamp were introduced for Android and iOS platforms. Due to its originality and flexibility in the field of changing the interface design through skins, several open clones for Linux were created under the influence of Winamp, such as XMMS, XMMS2, Beep Media Player, Audacious, and QMMP. NeoVim 0.10 has been released, a fork of Vim focused on increasing extensibility and flexibility. The project has been overhauling the Vim codebase for over 10 years, resulting in changes that make code easier to maintain, provide a means of dividing labor between multiple maintainers, separate the interface from the core, and implement a new extensible architecture based on plugins. The original code of the project is distributed under the Apache 2.0 license, and the basic part is distributed under the Vim license. Ready-made builds are prepared for Linux as AppImage, Windows, and Mac OS. What prompted the creation of NeoVim was Vim's bloated monolithic code base consisting of more than 300,000 lines of C89 code. Only a few people understand all the nuances of the Vim code base, and all changes are controlled by one maintainer. Instead of the code built into the Vim core to support the GUI, NeoVim proposes a universal layer that allows you to create interfaces using various toolkits. Igor Pavlov announced 7-Zip 24.05. The project code is written in C++ and is distributed under the LGPL license. Ready-made builds for Windows and Linux are available for download for i686, x86-64, and ARM32/64 architectures. Unfortunately, most distributions still ship with outdated P7-Zip, which is more than 7 years old, possibly because the 7Z code depends on the ASMC project, not used anywhere else. Nate Graham has published an update on KDE development. The most notable change is an initiative to address icon issues when running KDE gear included applications in non-KDE environments such as GNOME and XFCE. When creating the interface of KDE applications, icons from the general Breeze theme are used. When running in Plasma, the state of the icon theme and applications are synchronized, but in third-party environments, the Breeze theme may be missing or may diverge from the reference version, resulting in dialogues and widgets showing empty spaces, placeholders, or icons which are just not right. For uses outside the Plasma environment, functionality has been prepared for embedding the Breeze reference style and icons, which will be enabled by default but can be overridden by the system or user. Projects like Kate, Console, and Dolphin are already planning to use this new feature. The OpenSUSE project has published the release of the Agama 8 installer, which is being developed to replace the classic SUSE and OpenSUSE installation interface, and is notable for separating the user interface from the YAST internals. Agama provides the ability to use various front-ends, for example, a front-end for managing the installation via a web interface. To test the new installer, live builds have been created for the x86, PPC64LE, S390X, and ARM64 architectures, supporting the installation of OpenSUSE Leap, the continuously updated OpenSUSE Tumbleweed build, and several editions of SUSE Alp based on isolated containers. The new installer provides the capabilities necessary to solve tasks such as choosing an initial set of applications, setting up a network connection, language, keyboard, time zone, and localization settings, preparing a storage device and partitioning, and adding users to the system. The main goals of Agama's development include eliminating existing limitations of the graphical interface, expanding the ability to use YAST functionality in other applications, moving away from being tied to a single programming language, and encouraging the creation of alternative settings by members of the community. You've been listening to Full Circle Weekly News. For more details, see the next issue of the magazine at fullcirclemagazine.org or check the links in the show notes. You can contact me at bardmoss@pm.me. I'll see you next week.